Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Fear Dragon, or at least I think most people will know me by that name if you're coming into this channel. And I am here to do a new sort of series. It's going to be a series where I just talk about a topic that I really find interesting or I have something to say about. And today, the topic is going to be setting objectives that are within reasons, things that are within your control. And that doesn't necessarily mean setting objectives that are always super easy. That's not what I mean at all. Really, it just means trying to find things that are actually within your control as opposed to totally outside of your control. Easiest example I can go to is StarCraft. Now, a lot of people know Maynard, who's really, really fantastic, and he's been doing his own stream, which kind of partially inspired a bit of this talk. So with his stream, what he has been doing is he has been creating goals for every game. And these goals, I want to emphasize, they're always things that he is mostly or completely in control of. The main thing that he will never do is say, my goal is to win 10 games today, or to win like 5 games in a row. That's never going to be Maynard's goal. Because his goal will be things like, I'm going to make sure I don't get supply blocked. I'm going to make sure I'm never let my minerals go above 800 minerals or something. Things like that are, if not almost completely, they are completely under his control. Granted, of course, there's always going to be a little edge cases of, 8 medevacs came into my main base and supply blocked me. Oh no, I got supply blocked. Yes, there are going to be the extreme edge cases, but for the most part, you get to focus in on something that you don't have to worry about all these extra or nearly as many external variables for. And it's a way to create improvement in the game, in life in general, I think, if you take this approach. And that's what I really, really like about it, because if you focus in on things that aren't out within your control, like winning or losing, you are going to be facing off against an opponent whose entire being is focused on trying to prevent you from reaching your objective if your objective is winning or losing. That is going to be there in everything they do. Every action they take is going to be driven toward preventing you from achieving your goal. And that makes it really difficult, really, really difficult, and not always entirely in your control whether or not you achieve your goal. Even the best of the best StarCraft players lose games. And that is just a reality. You kind of have to accept, like, it's a part of the learning process. And I think suffering failures is not something that should be, looked at so unbelievably negatively. I think it's always going to be that kind of learning experience. And I think if you create goals and objectives, you'll find that if you're a little bit more accepting of failure when it's not something that was kind of a little bit more random sometimes, yeah, you are just going to be making you're going to be taking a bit of a risk. StarCraft is a game of incomplete information. You are going to end up taking risks no matter what. And sometimes you get the worst end of those risks. That is, again, just a reality of the situation. Because things are not always going to be in your control. Sometimes you will eventually decide, I need to move out against my opponent. And that's going to be the exact moment that small little inch between your observers or something, the 7-8 medevacs snuck through and just destroyed everything you had and you lose the game. But if you do things like say, I'm going to spend all of my money, that's a lot more in your control. You have the potential to do things like that and find ways to improve. And I feel like this is something that's also just applicable to even things outside of just playing StarCraft. I mean, I think a lot of people get really hung up on this is a problem and such and such other person should try and do something to deal with this. Like, they think about solutions that are outside of their control. Most common example are the balance problems. Oh my god, Widow Mines, Phoenix Adept is so ridiculous. Well, you're not David Kim, but I guess David Kim's not David Kim anymore. You are not the lead balance designer at StarCraft 2. So it's not really your decision or anything like that on whether or not Phoenix Adept or Widow Mines or Ravagers or whatever have you gets drastically changed. Yeah, your opinion can matter a little bit when you voice that opinion. Sure, I'm not going to take it away and say that Blizzard doesn't read Reddit, because they do. But for the most part, you're probably much better off just trying to find solutions yourself. And I think that that's one thing that the StarCraft community really struggle. I won't even say StarCraft community. I think it's just something that a lot of people in general really struggle with. When they're put in a tough spot, they stop thinking about what they can do and they think about what other people could do. And they don't even think about it in the context of I can make this happen if I do XYZ. They just think if I yell at this person enough, maybe they'll like smarten up and realize how dumb they were being. Like, and this is of course the way that they also phrase things when they talk to Blizzard. Like, oh my God, Blizzard, David Kim, look, David Kim. If you just listen to me for about 3 minutes while I tell you about Phoenix Adept, you'll realize what an idiot you were. And change it. It's like, no, why would that ever work? Okay, look, if you really want to make that your solution, then first of all, word it in a different way. Word it in a much more concrete and better way. Think about who your target audience is, all this stuff. Start thinking about things that are in your control. Your control now is to convince somebody about a balance change and convince them in a reasonable way. And a reasonable way is generally going to be by appealing to that person in a non-hostile way. Like, that's something that always blows my mind. But like, even again, taking it outside the whole balance thing, maybe your solution, if you are dealing with a bunch of Widowmine drops and Widowmines are your enemy. I mean, Widowmines are my enemy. I freaking hate Widowmines. Oh my God. Please, nobody put me in charge of balance, because Widowmines, they're going to do like 5 damage. It's going to actually heal shields instead of deal damage to Protoss shields. But my solution to Widowmines is that I just get more observers than most other Protoss do. And it's helpful not only for scouting out the Widowmines, but it's also helpful because I see all the stupid medevac drops coming into my base because I have legitimately like 10 observers out of the map by the 10-minute mark. And that's just my way of dealing with it. Maybe that's not the solution for everybody. If you're high GM, I'm sure creating 10 observers is not exactly the best way to do it. Even Pig Baby stopped at 5. But you can create solutions to these problems. Even the best players in the world are still creating solutions to these problems, and you are not an exception to like being able to do that. I think it's fully within your control to focus in on the things that you can do. And it's going to be a lot more satisfying when you do. And I think a lot of the biggest thing is that when you are constantly focused in on things that are outside of your control, you're going to be disappointed more often than if you just focus on things that are within your grasp, or not even within your grasp, but things that you can do. Because when you do something that's within your control to try and solve a problem, yeah, sometimes, I'm not going to lie, you will still be frustrated when you fail. But your immediate thought next, if you have developed this correct mindset, is going to be, God damn it, I still failed. I got supply blocked at 33 supply. But I bet you I can do it next time. Because this isn't something where, oh, David Kim, like, blah, 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 is, you know, someone else has to do, like, fix this problem, or I wish my opponent would stop cheesing me. You're not handling solutions that are just totally up to the rest of the universe to solve. It's something you can do, and you have a direct action you can implement in your next game. And now, you're not focused in on, oh God, I lost, I can't believe or you know whatever, something got screwed up. You're focused in on, next game, I'm gonna nail this. Next game, I'm gonna get this. Next game, I'm gonna fuck up those Widowmines. And you'll just be happier. Even after losses, you won't feel quite as down. You may feel a little bit down on yourself, but ultimately, if you keep on that path, you will actually see improvement and progress, and you will handle things like Widowmine drops, or you will handle the Phoenix Adept, or you will handle whatever X thing that plagues you, including outside of StarCraft. If you have a shitty boss or whatever, like a really terrible professor, you focus on the things that are within your control. Yeah, I've had shitty professors in college where my professors, I couldn't understand, legitimately, I couldn't understand a word of English they were saying. And I meant no offense by it, but I could not understand their accents for the life of me. it was insane. I wasn't sure sometimes if they were actually speaking English. But it wasn't in my control to go up to the professor and say, "Hey, I can't understand your English, like do something about it." I mean, I suppose that may do something, but that's a very rude way of putting it. So instead I just said, "Well, I have the book and I have online resources. I guess I'll just read what the topic is on the, like whatever the syllabus for that day was, and I'll just go learn about it myself and then do the homework." And I would just spend time in class. Sometimes I would have my headphones in during class, listening to a Khan Academy, which is a great website if you don't know about it, Khan Academy, or some YouTube video explaining the thing that the teacher and the professor, the front of the class, was talking about. But I could understand the person there. So that was just an action I could take. And I wasn't focusing, I wasn't losing time because of any other thing that was outside of my control. And I was just so much happier because of it. The world just suddenly becomes a lot more reasonable when you start thinking about all the things you can do. Not just because you're going to be able to achieve and, make progress and everything, but you're going to realize how many things really are possible for you because you decided to do something, not just because someone else decided to do something. And that's actually the philosophy of why I've done so much in StarCraft, or like a lot of the events I've done. Not that I've like done an insane amount, but things like, for people who know my channel, Breaking Out, which is highlighting up-and-coming North American players. I said, and I saw, NA players kind of not doing so well. There's like no up-and-coming talent right now. The up-and-coming talent isn't really being supported. I'll go make a thing about it. I'll make a tournament about it. I'll cast it myself. Like, I put in funds from like a summer job that I had worked to run the tournament and everything. I'd create a format and got people to interview and all this stuff. Ladder Heroes, which is now a Blizzard sponsored event, was me just saying, well, the NA ladder is something that everybody always complains about. And yeah, I could just complain and moan and bitch about why doesn't Blizzard do XYZ to improve the ladder? Why doesn't Blizzard start rewarding WCS points for laddering? And why doesn't Total Biscuit still use the North American ladder and run another StarCraft Kings? Like, I could complain about 500,000 different things that other people could do about the StarCraft ladder. But ultimately, I could just go try and do it myself. And everybody has their own strengths and weaknesses. And I think everyone can find something that is interesting and possible for them. Maybe you don't have money, but I'm willing to bet you there are some other organizations out there that could very much use your time if you're willing to contribute it. I'm willing to bet there are plenty of people who are willing to take other forms of contributions. And heck, if people aren't doing the idea that you really think is a good one, just go execute it yourself. There's so much in your control. I really want people to just keep that in mind, not just in StarCraft, but in life, because I think people will be a lot happier if they do so. My name is Fear Dragon, and hopefully you guys enjoyed the talk. I have more coming, hopefully once a week. And yeah, keep StarCrafting. Happy, well, I don't know what day this is going to come out on. Happy whatever day.